Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those of you still on the fence, welcome back to another episode of Derailed, courtesy of Archaic Skids. I'm, of course, your host, Archaic Skids. We have back with us Liberty Down Under, our Australian brother that we all need to kind of applaud because he made it through yet another year of legal training. So eventually he's going to keep us all out of prison. What up, my homie?
Yeah, pretty good. It's good to be here.
Good, man. So we were just talking pre-show that the internet was all wonky for a few days. I'm sure you've seen some of the articles that a lot of major American corporations are now being hacked and held hostage through ransomware, which is hilarious to me personally. But it is kind of problematic in a way. I guess. Well, okay. Let's just start with what are your thoughts on that? Like, what's going on there?
Well, it's odd that it's happening right now. There was what that started with. What was it? The Colonial Pipeline in America that was hit first.
Yes.
It's odd that it's happening right now of all times. It's like we're just getting over COVID. We're getting over COVID, and all of a sudden we're getting hacked everywhere. So it's very suspicious that it's happening right now. Like it's either a weird coincidence or there's something else happening behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Yeah. Well, Colonial Pipeline got hit. Well, I mean, as far as we know, they got hit first. We don't really know. Other places may have got hit first. But that was the one that caused the most widespread, I guess, damage. In a short period of time. And then there was like, what was it, JBS Meats, which is like the largest or one of the largest beef producers, I think, on earth. But in America, they represent like 21% of all beef production, something like 30% of pork production. Like they're massive, and they shut down multiple plants. Over like it was a weird situation. One of the funniest things that I saw was I don't know who he was. I don't know if he's CEO or what he was from Colonial Pipeline. Sorry. And they said, why didn't you just go in and turn the pipeline on manually, right? Like, I mean, it seems reasonable. Like, just
Seems
go.
obvious.
Yeah, like, okay, they hacked it and it turned the lever off. Go turn the lever on, and problem solved, right? And his actual response to our Congress or Senate, I can't remember if it was a congressional hearing or a Senate hearing, either way, was everyone that knows how to do that is either retired or dead.
To what? Hit a switch.
To go turn a lever, apparently. I'm like, really? No one could figure it out? No one? I feel almost like they probably could have went to some fucking farmer in Ohio and been like, can you get on this copter right quick? And I bet you money he would have been like, this looks right. And it probably would have worked.
Well, you'd think that they'd have built-in redundancy programming and stuff, or they'd have people who are trained just in case this happened. You'd
You
think
would
there'd
think
be
so.
backups.
You would think so. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know. Like it's an odd situation to me because I mean, really, dude? Like no one knows how to turn this. And let's say that everyone's retired, right? I bet you still have their phone numbers.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, couldn't you call them up and go, "Hey, you want to make $1,000,000? Because these assholes are asking for $5,000,000, but we'll give you $1,000,000 if you go turn this thing on for us."
Yeah,
Like,
it's cheaper.
yeah,
It's
like
much cheaper, and
yeah,
it's not that much work.
that's what it seems weird to me. Like, I'm sure you've seen the things like, "Am I a Fed?" or whatever. So I'm like, all right, well, based on that, then, right? Let's make that argument. So, okay, if they got hacked and it was this bad and it caused this many troubles, then why wouldn't they let's say that all the guys that know how to turn it on manually are retired or dead. Well, that means that there are some alive that know how to do it, right? Call them. Like, why wouldn't you call them? Like, and just be like, hey,
every person has their price, so find what their price is, offer it,
and then see if they want to come out, like, and turn your shit back on. Just saying. I mean, it seems reasonable to me. Like, if I'm over here and I got an automated house, and then all of a sudden my electricity's not working, my shit's not working, right? What do? Right? Am I gonna? So if I call the companies and they're like, well, we just can't even get to it, then you know what I'm gonna do? I have multiple electricians in my family. I'm like, can you figure out how to bypass this and or turn it on? That's what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? And one of them's gonna be like, I'll figure it out. You know, might cost you some money, but it's whatever. That's what you do. And when you're talking about millions of people, of course that's what you do. Why you pay the ransom? That's ridiculous. Not to mention that the understanding now is they paid the ransom in like just a couple of hours. It still took a fucking week.
You're joking?
No. I'm not 100%, but that's my understanding is that it took like a week for them to get everything back operational. And they paid their ransom in just a couple hours. They were like, you know, I'm sure they called their security protocol peoples and they were like, well, I mean, you don't really have a choice. You just kind of got to pay it because, you know what I mean? And so they just paid it. And then it took a fucking week for them to get everything back stabilized. So that just seems odd to me because I'm like, look, your engineers had to know that it's not all just going to come back online, right? In a shutdown like that, it's going to take time to line things back and get them back going, right? To me, I'm thinking if I'm the CEO, I'm going to go, well, can't we just there's got to be a valve, right?
Yes.
How can we just turn it back on? Like, there's got to be a manual way to do this thing. And when I got told by my team, oh, well, all the people that know how to do that are retired or dead, I'm like, well, get on the phone to the not dead ones. Like, what do you mean? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yes, the keyword there is retired, not dead. There are still some alive.
Yeah, it's like, you know, if some general's over there thinking about, man, we got to basically re-storm the beaches of Normandy, but everyone that knows how to do it's retired or dead. No, call the retired one and ask him, how'd you pull it off? Just saying.
Well, it's like the fact that they continue to brief all ex-presidents on national security issues in case they can offer advice. Even though they're retired, they can still offer advice to do the exact same thing, but in a business level.
Yeah,
exactly. I can't believe that I'm saying the government is doing this better than businesses, but I am. I can't believe it. But apparently, for once, government's got things right. I'm now a Fed.
I've never even thought about it that way, but welcome to the Fed Club. So yes, there's that. But you're not wrong. That's actually that's viable. That makes sense. Like the government would be one of the people that would go, oh, well, this retired person knows how to do this thing. Call them. That would be the answer. Call them to find out how to do this thing. Like it seems to make sense to me. I don't. Yeah. Well, see, damn it. You did not help my cause there that I'm not a Fed.
Hey, I hurt me more than I hurt you.
That's true. Now we're both Feds. That's true. Most of my damage has already been done, so it's fine. It's whatever. So
look, I'll just rebrand to Fed Down Under, and I'll be happy with that.
I like it. That works. So you just finished What is this? Your second year now? You
No,
you
so
just did.
so because I'm Southern Hemisphere, so I'm only half. So it's only winter here, so I'm only halfway through. So year and a half. I've done a year and a half of 4 years.
Oh, okay. So
So
you've got.
our education system is the inverse.
I got you. Okay. So we're on summer break now.
It's winter here.
Yeah. I always forget you guys are all fucking backwards of. You're not backwards. It's just the whole thing's backwards
Yes.
of our stuff. So you're winter break, we're summer break. And I should remember because that's how the flu shot ideology works. We get our flu shots from Australia. Whatever took place in Australia, the variants that we have in the flu, uh, whatever you guys deal with, is what they build our flu shots to do in
Yes.
America, which is fucking see, little brother.
Yes.
Not even kidding. Like it's like, well, the little brother got sick with this, so we should probably make something to make sure older brother doesn't get sick with that. Doesn't work, but you know.
You
You
guys
know
are
what
literally
does
using
work? Masks. Because if you wear your mask like a good little rodent, then you will not get the flu. You'll probably still get COVID and die, but you will not get the flu.
Yes.
So that's important. He's very busy playing Elf Lord or something. I don't know what he's doing over there. Watching porn. I'm not entirely sure. He's got multiple things going on right now. What are you doing?
Nothing. No.
You seem like you're very engaged in something.
In this I am. No. So what's happening right now with Fauci? Any more updates on those emails?
As far as I know, he had a see, one of the things that irritates me about this is they're like the leaks. They weren't leaks, they were FOIA, like Freedom of Information Acts that some news outlets put in and they just had to release them to him. So it's not a leak. It's not like someone copied his hard drive and went, look, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so basically, essentially everything was that Fauci was saying in public was, well, just look at it in the mirror, read it backwards, and that's what was going on from a bunch of the people that he was talking to. And a lot of the people were saying like the whole lab leak thing might actually be the most viable option. He was saying like you know the masks really don't do anything, like the droplets. Like
Yeah.
he was actually telling the truth in the beginning from a year of emails that got released, that it was, yeah, in the beginning when he said it might stop some droplets or two, he was actually being honest in that moment, which is all of what science had always said. Like they do this, like, and I know a lot of people in the beginning were saying, well, surgeons wear masks. Yeah, dummy. So they don't like spit into the wound
Yes.
that they're trying to repair, right? The mask isn't for them, it's for the person next to them, which was the argument that then Fauci tried to use. The problem was that this virus is so teensy that unless you're wearing like super surgical grade N95s, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
And he knew that, and he lied.
It's like using a chain link fence to keep out insects. It's not going to work. Even if you have 3 chain link fences, it still won't do anything.
No.
It might stop a few of them, but the majority will still get through. That's what we've seen.
Right, which is why I have a bug zapper.
Yes. the most efficient way to stop COVID is to isolate. Not masks.
Like completely 100% by yourself. Yeah.
Yes. But that's not
even
very
be around
viable.
another person. That's not
Yeah,
viable. That's not a viable
no.
option. The most efficient way to stop COVID is to let it run its course.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying the most efficient, like of everything the government's tried, locked restrictions in like in making sure that you isolate is probably the most efficient of all of them. And that's probably the only reason that the government's had any success in what they're doing is by making people isolate to themselves. But even then, people will still break those. Like we're talking earlier. You and I were talking about the fact that in Australia we've had people escaping from Melbourne up to Queensland, so they've gone through an entire state and like they've gone through one entire state without stopping, and they finally reached Queensland and then got tested here.
Yeah.
Like so, even having restrictions and making sure you're isolated still doesn't do it. It still won't work 100% of the time. People are still going to disobey it. Like if you tell a child don't touch this, they will touch it. If you tell someone don't break this law, they will break that law. Like I heard it said well once before. Like if you're in a museum and the signs and all the signs say don't touch and the tour guide is saying don't touch, you're lucky to try and at least like you either will touch it or you'll try and touch it and not get caught. It's human instinct that if you're told to do something, your instinct is to go, okay, let's not do that. Let's disobey them.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's kind of, um, I mean, I don't know. The what is now America at one point got told pay this tea tax, and they went fucking bite me, and all hell
Yes.
broke loose, and now we have America. So I'm just saying, like, we're not good at following direction. Humans in general just aren't. Like,
Yes.
especially if they feel like they're not, like, if they don't have a say in it, right? If they don't have a choice, if they don't have a whatever representation, they get irritated. And when they get irritated, shit gets crazy because, well, that's how every war in the world has ever started. Is someone got irritated and went "fuck you," and then game set match.
Hey,
So
well,
you know,
you Americans got your rights through fighting. First the War of Independence, then a civil war later on. So whereas the rest of the world, like England, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, we take our right for granted. So there's a lot less resistance when the government tries to take away those rights compared to
right, but
America.
also there's something to be said for the fact that a lot of the world, or at least the Western world, I would say, England, all the Baltic states, all the Scandinavian states, Canada, Australia, for instance, also was another one. They took the fact that America took their rights by force, and they went. They kind of use that as their beckoning. Like, do you want us to do that, or do you just want to grant them? And in most cases, the government went, yeah, let's just it's okay. You can do that, right? But I think you might be onto something there, that because ours was by force, that it's maybe a little more scary to our government.
Well, the way I see it is that with like your argument makes sense, but that would only work with the people who were around at the time of the American War of Independence. Like the people who were around at that point in time, the rest of the world would see it, whereas generations down in the like generations down, like my generation today, like we have no idea about that. Whereas Americans are taught in school, you're taught about the War of Independence, the Civil War. You guys are taught that like directly and actively
Not
instructed on what
anymore.
happened. Well,
I mean,
at least
we're taught that it happened. We're not taught.
until
My
but
my
you
daughter,
have the
my
greater
youngest
appreciation.
daughter is in that realm of social study now, and it's essentially the way it's being taught now is that we stole a bunch of land from the indigenous, and then we used slave trade to rape and pillage the rest of the land.
Well,
in
join the
order
club.
to gain control of it. And I'm like,
That's what we're taught.
deal. I'm okay with that. Like, I mean, but the point is that we were actually the War of Independence was for freedom from the crown. It wasn't.
Yes.
It wasn't. You can put all the nightmares of the American Indian Wars or the Indigenous Wars or whatever you want to call them to the side. The war itself was that we're not going to have one dude that just tells everyone what to do, even though we're right back to it now with the president. But,
Yes. An elected king, basically.
Yeah, but a couple hundred years, 150 years we went where it was like, no, dude, you have no power. Shut up. Your job is to just sign shit that we send you. You know what I mean?
Well, there's a reason why George Washington stepped down after 2 terms. He knew what would happen if people stayed in office.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that didn't matter to Roosevelt.
Not at all.
And then people finally realized, hang on, we've got to do something about this. We have to actually make sure the president only has 2 terms. But even then, that's probably like
That's
8 years.
too much, I think.
Well, you look at not just the fact that it's 2 terms, but then you're kept on as an advisor, basically, as I said before, and then also you make it a family business. So 2 Bushes plus Jeb, Clinton and Hillary, making it into a family business almost.
Yeah, rather the Clintons actually were able to hold the presidency for more than the 2 terms. Sure, they weren't. The Bushes were. The Bushes held it for 12, but they're not the first ones. The Roosevelts had it for fucking ever. Like, they're probably the dynasty of America.
Was Teddy 1 or 2 terms? I can't remember. How long was he in for?
2 terms.
And then Roosevelt was 3 or 4?
3, I think 3.5. I believe he was elected for 4th, and then he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he had if I remember right, it was something like 13.4 years or something like that.
Well, it was 32, 36, 40, 44. So that's
12.
That's 12, and then he died in 45, so that's 13 years, which is a really long time.
Yeah. Well, I think it was him that actually got the ball rolling to go, no, you can't be president more than twice, more than 2 terms, 8 years.
It was people responding to people after the war. They realized they probably shouldn't have had FDR in the system. That's why America's changed there. That's why it was made an amendment because of FDR.
I have mixed feelings on that kind of stuff because I can understand the reasoning to do that. What I don't understand is how they came up with the reasoning that we have to dictate that a president can only have a term, 2 terms, right? 4-year terms. And yet somehow every other elected cycle of government on the federal level didn't fall under this thing.
Yes.
And now we have, Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, who's 8,000 years old, and she's fine. Or Nancy Pelosi, who rode into Washington on a fucking velociraptor that she tamed with her own personal political teeth. And she's fine. She's been there for fucking 30-some thousand years. It's insane to me.
Well, Joe Biden's been a senator or a vice president for 44 years. And after this term, that'll be 48 years, unless he dies.
He was, with his 1 term in Congress, he was 46 years before he became president.
Yeah.
So unless he dies, if he makes it his entire term, he will be 50 solid years, which will literally be 1/4 of our entire country's history.
Yep.
That's
Does not
insane.
surprise me.
That's insane. These people should not be doing that, you know?
It doesn't surprise me that he's been in there for that long. Like 50 years. Could be 54 if he gets re-elected. Fingers crossed he doesn't.
If he gets re-elected. If he gets re-elected, you know how many people are just going to come to Australia and just take your country over?
Forget move to Canada, move to Australia.
Just Americans are just going to get on boats and they're going to show up and they're going to be like, yeah, we're in charge now because no. Might actually do good for a bunch of Australians.
Yes. Have some decent gunners come here and educate us on why we need our own guns.
You do need to own guns. Everyone needs to own guns. Everyone across the entire planet needs to own guns. All of them. I don't care. Like the only irritating thing about everyone in America now starting to realize that they need to own guns is there's an ammo shortage. But that's government related. If government would fuck out of the way, we wouldn't have an ammo shortage. We would have all the ammo that we need. This is just fact because they would manufacture whatever supply would or whatever demand would request. They would do, but because we have all these batshit stupid laws in this country about black powder manufacturing, it takes so much licensing, it takes so much time, it becomes problematic. So there's that. So we have to fix that part. Like that's the biggest thing is people are like, oh yeah, well people are buying too much. And I'm like, yeah, true, but they're not because realistically we could actually make a lot more. We just aren't allowed to.
Well, I've heard some people defend the government getting involved in the ammunition industry saying, well, the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. Does it say those arms have to be loaded? That's what I've heard people say.
That's a retarded argument, and those people can fucking suck my balls because what the fuck good is arms without ammo? Like, of course they're synonymous. You know what I mean? Like that's a retarded argument, and anyone that makes it should be slapped in their face, like the Prime Minister of Canada got slapped in his face the other day.
What for?
I don't know. He was like walked up to one of those little picket lines like the presidents do. Got slapped in. Did you not see this?
No.
Trudeau got bitch slapped, homie. Maybe it's because there are.
You sure it was Trudeau?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was Emmanuel Macron who got slapped in the face.
That might have been Macron.
They're both French.
Yeah, it could have been Macron. Yeah, that might be what it was. Whatever. Politician got bitch slapped, and it was hilarious.
Yes, I will always watch those videos. It's hilarious to watch.
Did you see that? Did you see that video here in America where that cop like pit maneuvered that lady and made her crash her car?
Yes, I saw that. That's attempted murder.
Yeah. Thank you.
I know I can't give legal opinions, so this is not a legal opinion. Just a disclaimer, but that she should take him to court for attempted murder.
I don't.
If I was in her spot, I would do
for attempted murder, but she could sue him for attempted murder.
Oh, yeah, she can sue him, and then the government can take the police officer to court for attempted murder because that's a criminal offense.
They're not gonna. She was white.
Do you guys have immunity for cops if they do stuff like that?
Qualified immunity.
Is it complete, or is it only if it wasn't within the reasonable realm?
He can't be financially sued, but he can be held legally or criminally liable.
Yeah,
but he can't be financially held liable at all.
So she can't sue him, but he can be taken to court by for attempted murder got it.
Yes, but they're not going to because he was white and so was she.
Yeah.
So they're not
There'll be
going
no
to.
protests.
Well, the only protests are coming from the Libertarian Party.
Yes,
And
basically.
they're not, I mean, they made a ruckus out of it yesterday, and now it's like nothing to them again. So, see,
Well,
this is one of the things that I fucking run into with these. They don't, they lie. They lie. They want to be on Twitter, they want to be on whatever nonsense and say, oh well, we care about these things or these things or these things. But then when it really comes down to it, like this woman situation, right? Now, thank God she didn't die, but this woman's situation, are they going to be in the streets out there protesting what happened to her? No, fuck no, they're not. They're not going to do that. So you know what? They can all fucking blow me. At this point, I'm so done with the Libertarian Party. I don't even give a damn anymore because they lie. So it doesn't matter.
well, the thing is, the LP is the only party who will get involved in this, so they have an obligation to. The
But they're
GOP
not
won't do
going
anything.
to.
The GOP won't do anything because it's the cops.
GOP will back the blue. She
The Democrats
probably
are going to.
had it coming. That's
The
what they'll
Democrats won't
say.
get involved. The Democrats won't get involved because it's a white woman and a white guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it falls to the LP to actually do something and get involved.
Yeah, but they're
Whether
not
it's even
going
just
to.
whether it's even just start up a GoFundMe and try and look after this woman, get her in your car or something. But yeah, it's really a lot of
How
slap criticism
about
by the LP.
they get this cop arrested? Because that's what happened with the George Floyd thing. Like, how dare you murder this poor person that was a awful, awful, awful human being based on every reasonable record of him. He was a horrid human, and he got a golden casket. That was
Yeah, but
crazy.
just because you're a bad person doesn't mean that you're not entitled to the same rights as everyone else. Like just because you're a bad
I
person
know.
doesn't mean you shouldn't be able
I
to
know.
get a trial. Which is why I don't like how you guys run your gun laws in the sense that like once you go to prison you can't own a gun, or once you go to prison you can't vote. Like in Australia, like if
I don't like any of that either.
in Australia how we run it is like if you're in prison and you're going to get out in the after the next election, like in the next 3-year term, you're allowed to vote. Because you'll be affected by the policies of that party. And once you get out, you're allowed to vote as well. So we don't have the same voting restrictions as you guys do. Why do you guys have that? Like, it makes no sense to me as a foreigner. The fact that once you're in prison, you can't vote.
There's something in our Constitution that essentially says that the only actual legal way, I can't remember what amendment it is. There's an amendment that essentially says basically the only way to take someone's rights away is through due process, through criminal activity. Now, that has been interpreted to mean that you can take people's rights from them based on that particular amendment. And one of the things that they like to do is like, so what we run into in America a lot, and when it comes to legality of things like voting, gun law, stuff like that, you would think that would come from the Democrats, the left. It comes from the right. It comes from the Republicans. That this person's a criminal. They're not allowed to vote. They're a criminal. Even if they're not anymore, even if they've served all their time, whatever, it's all fine, good, whatever. And the left doesn't push back. Well, they're pushing back now on that side. But then on the other side was, well, they shouldn't be able to have a gun because they're a criminal. So obviously they're going to harm people. Doesn't really matter why they're a criminal. You know what I mean? And so felony is the argument that they make. And Democrats never push back on that because, well, they don't want anyone to have a gun.
Yeah, well, if the Democrats push back on the voting and say that prisoners should be allowed to vote, then the argument is, well, be consistent, apply the same thing to gun rights, and they won't do that. So they can't push back if they
that's my
do.
problem with Republicans, because it's like they never push back. It's never like, let's put it this way. Democrats in America now have been pushing a lot. Not all Democrats, but a bunch of them have been starting to push that you should be able to vote at 16. And you should be able to vote at 16 because you can get a job at 16 and therefore you pay taxes at 16. And I will say, quite honestly, from a reasonable sense of our country's founding of taxation without representation, right? If you're 16 and you have a job and you're paying taxes, there's an argument to be made that you should have a say. I understand that argument. I would say, as a Republican, I wouldn't push back against the Democrats. I would say, and then they should also be able to own an AR-15.
Yeah.
Take their argument. Push it that way.
Take their argument and take it to its logical resolution. Say, okay, if we're going to apply it to this, apply it to everything.
And they can also join the U.S. military.
Yeah.
They can join the military. They can purchase firearms. They can do all that because it's the same thing. It's still taxation without representation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They can buy cigarettes. They can buy alcohol. They can buy whatever they want. They're adults because if they can vote, they're an adult. That's the argument that I would make. If I'm a Republican, that's the argument I make. Okay, fine. You want them to vote? Yes, I do. Why? Because they're being taxed and they're not being represented. Cool. Then they can also take every single clarity of thought of anyone above the age of 21. So we're just going to lower everything. They can now go into the gun store and buy their AR-15. No problem. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
The problem with that is expecting the evangelical right to say that people who are age 16 should be able to drink alcohol and smoke, which they won't back.
Right, and the Democrats know it, but the right doesn't push it. That's my point. If the right was to push that argument, right? You have to think about it in the regard of they're not fighting back.
Yes.
You got to fight back. You got to say, when they say, well, we want to ban all assault rifles, which is not a real thing. That's not even a real thing. It doesn't mean anything. It has no value of thought. Then the right, in my opinion, should go, oh, well, we should turn the ATF into the gun service store, which is all U.S. citizens will be issued said firearm at the age of 16, a rifle and handgun. That's it. Just push back. They never push back. Push back. You could, I don't know, you stop it, but you damn sure slow it down a lot. You know what I mean? But they don't. What does the right do? They say, well, law-abiding citizens. Tell me in the U.S. Constitution, you're not a U.S. citizen, but tell me in the U.S. Constitution where it says law-abiding citizen.
I wouldn't know.
It doesn't say it. That's not a term that's ever used. The Second Amendment is very clear. And I mean, it is probably the most clear amendment we have because it is very specific as to its point, where many other amendments have multitudes of thoughts and ideologies. The Second Amendment is not one of those. And it's the only amendment that we have that absolutely ends with "fuck you," essentially, in
Yeah,
their
so true.
terms. It does. It ends with "shall not be infringed," which is a big old giant fuck you to anything you come up with. Doesn't matter. We don't care. You can blow me. Like it. That's it. Like, but they never push back. They never even try, bro. I don't even know why.
And as I said, probably because they're too tied up. If they push back on a lot of that stuff, then they'll be called out for being hypocritical as well because they don't want people to be able to drink or smoke a lot of the time, or at least not at a young age.
Yeah. Well, I know that's one of the biggest arguments that I've always had with this situation is especially for like the U.S. military, right? So these guys and gals, 18 years old, you ship them off to war. War. You give them weapons and training and everything. You ship them off to war. They can't drink a beer
Yeah.
in America because they ain't 21. So they're not an adult. That's what the American government says. You're not an adult. You can't have a beer. And I'm like,
See, in Australia,
you
the
don't
drinking age
give
is
them a
16.
fucking fully automatic weapon. Like,
Yeah, see, in Australia, if you're 16, you can drink on private property, and if you're 18, you can buy alcohol and drink in pubs.
yeah.
So we're a
So
lot more lax on drinking laws. Although I guess we've got a very much a alcohol-based culture, so no surprise there.
so do we. We always have. Like, but here, so this is from the Constitution Unaided Analysis and Interpretation of the U.S. Constitution. Okay, this is the Second Amendment. This is probably, in my opinion, the absolute most important part of it, or best part. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's where the lefties go rowdy because they're like, a well-regulated militia. That means the state. And I'm like, no, it doesn't, dummy. That's not what militia means, like at all. You know what I mean? But we run into this shit all the time in America where this is their argument, and politicians make the argument, judges make the argument. They run into it all the time. And dude, I don't know if you've been paying attention. I'm sure you have actually, because you're a smart kid. The fucking world is coming apart at its seams right now.
Yeah,
like
it is.
America and China are like we're in a weird situation. I don't even know what we're gonna do with that because you're talking the two superpowers economically that are they're bolstering, and it's not good. You know, Australia just pulled some shit with China, which is hilarious, and I'm a big fan of because, whatever. Australia is
Yes.
the only country I know for an absolute fact. No matter what they do, America will back them.
Yes.
So when people are like, "Well, if they invade Taiwan, what's America going to do?" And I look at it like nothing. America will do nothing if they invade Taiwan. But if China attacks Australia, fucking game on. America will hit them with everything we have. Just because we have to.
However, that makes sense. Like, there's the ANZUS Treaty, so America has to get involved if we're attacked. The problem is that has not yet happened, but at the same time, Australia has to keep getting involved in America's foreign wars. We followed you into Iraq twice, into Afghanistan,
Shouldn't have.
into Syria. Like, we keep and the way I'm not joking. And this is how one of my lecturers at university described it. as insurance premiums. Australia gets involved in these foreign wars with America because of insurance premiums. That way, when
Okay.
push comes to shove and Australia gets attacked, America will come to our aid. There's no need to pay insurance premiums. The ANZUS Treaty is a mutual defense treaty. If Australia gets attacked, America has to come to our aid. So there's no need to pay premiums on any sort of insurance policy. We don't have to get involved in those foreign wars. There's no incentive to, except we want to make America like us. That's why we get involved. It's because we want to be America's best friend.
Makes sense. Except America doesn't have to come to your aid.
Yeah, it's a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And
and
we've
like
seen
the U.S. Constitution in America, it's a piece of paper. And we haven't really held to it very well because it's a piece of paper. But
well, remember,
I do understand where Australia is coming from in that situation. That like, no. If we help them when we need it, like we have this leverage that like, look, we helped you. You have to help us.
like brownie points.
Yeah, basically, yes, exactly like brownie points. I mean, it's a weird situation for me because to me, I'm like, we should sever all alliances around the globe and we should do our own thing. But at the same time, we haven't done that. And what alliances we have, I think we should honor. But the only one we seem to honor is Israel.
Yeah.
Other than that, we're like, maybe. It just depends.
If we feel like it.
Yeah. Although,
Well,
I don't know. Like, I think if Australia came under siege, I actually feel like America would just light shit up.
Yes, but the only reason that's the case is because Australia is the Israel of Southeast Asia.
True.
That's the only reason why.
Well, I don't know if that's the only reason why. It might also, it's pretty strategic.
Well, like, the reason why the US is so close to Israel is because Israel provides all the intelligence in the Middle East. And the same, and that's one of the reasons there is because Israel provides all the intelligence.
It's not. I think most
same
of it's because we have to keep our like Christian nonsense people in check. We can't allow Israel to fall because the Catholics, the Christians in America would go ballistic if Israel fell.
But
the government knows that.
I know plenty of Christians, including myself, who are in favor of a two-party state. Or a two-state, whatever it is.
Including myself. But the problem is America is 70% Christian.
Yes.
And 60% of them are going to go ballistic if Israel falls. So America's not going to let that happen. They're going to prop it up like they always have. But I also feel like everyone knows Australia's like America's little brother. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful in any way. So don't take it that way.
I completely agree with you.
But I also feel like that 90% of Americans, if Australia came under siege, would just go, you better fuck that country up that went after them.
So
like,
the thing is, if
they would light up China, the American people would light China on fire if they went after Australia. And China knows it, and America knows it. The American government knows it.
If China lays a finger on New Zealand, Australia will get involved because New Zealand is our little brother. And because Australia gets involved, America gets involved because we're your little brother. That's how it works.
And then all of a sudden, World War III.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Einstein said that World War III will be. He doesn't know what will be World War III.
It'll be
World War IV. World War IV is sticks and stones.
Yep. He said it doesn't matter what we fight World War III with, World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
Because World War III
will
be annihilation.
It'll be nuclear global annihilation from World War III.
you look at how many of the nuclear scientists didn't want it to be used as a weapon. Oppenheimer, Einstein, all these people were like, you have it as a backup.
What was it Oppenheimer said, or at least it got attributed to him?
I am become destroyer of world. I am become death, destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, that's fucking intense. Could you imagine being the guy that built the death of a planet?
And the fact remains that nukes should never have been used in the first place. They did not need to nuke Japan. Japan was going
Thanks,
to
America.
surrender. The reason why America nuked Japan is to show Russia, don't mess with us.
Japan had surrendered. America knew. That's declassified now. America knew Japan had surrendered before they got nuked.
There was no need to nuke them. It was
no. That's the point. The only reason they did it was to terrify Russia.
Yes, and it didn't work because the Russia then copied them.
Because then Russia was
then
like, whatever, bitch, we do what we want. Oh man, I fucking look. I love my country. I do. I think America is by far the best idea of a nation that has ever existed. I don't think we've followed through on that idea, but I think the idea itself was very good, and there's opportunity to get it still done. So I'm a big fan, but it's been a bumpy road, obviously. I I really hope we don't go to war with China.
I doubt it. China's in their position militarily to fight. It'll be at least 50 years before China's got the military. China is revitalizing the military, but they don't have the navy.
Doesn't matter. The economic and brutal military impact globally will be it would be bad. And the problem is, and this is my concern, is that I do not want to see a nuclear war. And China's only real capability against the US right now is a nuclear war.
Yeah.
Which is problematic. Now, I think the people running China are smart enough to know that. Like, that's not good for anyone. Like, there's no way that you're just coming out of this thing okay. You know what I mean? It's going to fuck everything up for a very long time. But China's long planners. Who knows?
Yeah, they're in it for the long haul.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just don't want to see. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see a nuclear war. I don't want to see anything like that. Obviously, that would be fucking horrid. And you know, a bunch of our allies, our friends around the world, like, you know, this is what irritates me the most. It's governments that war. It's not people.
No, it's not. Yes, you so true.
Our governments could be at war right now, and me and you would still be having this conversation. It wouldn't matter. Because I don't care. Like, I would have a conversation with a Chinese person. I'd have a conversation with fucking Al Qaeda. I don't care. Like, I don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? No one does.
So, yes.
So they're mad at each other, and we're over here like, oh, we have to pick a side. No, we really don't. Maybe that's the lesson learned here, is no, you don't.
Yeah, states fight wars, not nations. Nations are people, states are governments.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I like that. That's perfect. All right, man. We're gonna wrap it up. You were at one point talking about starting your own podcast. I don't know why you're not doing that yet, because you are Liberty Down Under. And other than a couple of other guests that I have, American guests, you get the most views on my channel. Like
Seriously.
everyone, like, yeah, dude, everyone loves to hear from Liberty Down Under. I don't know if they're American. I don't know if they're Australian. I don't know if they're British. I don't know what's going. I know that your views get me about 20 from Britain, 20 from Australia, 20 from New Zealand, which is weird to me.
Well, say I said down under can include New Zealand, so you know, there's always that.
But New Zealand, that's and I mean percentages, right?
Yes.
So it's 20 of New Zealand, Australia, England, and then America. Well, Great Britain, and then America, and then just random shit like from Africa and whatever. They're probably like figuring out how to murder us both, but that's okay.
I think the main, like, I would do a podcast if I had the time for it, and I wasn't so ADHD. Like, I have started writing about 5 articles for the Mises Institute because you can write articles and submit them, but I never finish them. I'm a bit ADHD like that. So it's like if I had the time and I was more motivated to do it, then I would definitely start one up here.
Just do it. Let me explain this to you so it's easy for you to understand. Hit record and start talking. And then just do that. And when you're done, just click off and you're good. You don't have to do nothing past that point. Just upload it. It's simple. Just push a button and it all goes good. You don't have to worry about all this nonsense. It's simple. And you don't have to do it on schedule. You don't, whatever. Just talk about what's going on. Get our younger brother involved in Liberty. Like maybe we could use some mates from the Down Under.
True.
No, it'd be all right, man. Like you don't have to put a lot of production into it. You don't have to do a lot to it. Just kind of hit it and just go with it, man. That'd be all good.
Yeah.
All right, bud. I'm gonna let you go. So you want anything? You plug in anything or?
Just check. Do you have the thing at the bottom of the screen scrolling the Twitter link in the bottom of the screen? Is that going still?
No, I didn't put that in there, but I will put it in the description.
Yeah, just Liberty Down Under on Twitter without the R in under, just UNDR.
Yeah, I'll throw it in the description, and then they can follow you there, and that'll be all good, man.
Too easy.
Peace, homies.